Today, news broke that the U.S. economy shrank by 1.4%, a retraction. Now, Joe Biden and the Democrats have been talking about this major economic boom. You know what they're doing is they're looking at how the economy basically collapsed because of the pandemic. And now that we're struggling to get back to normalcy, every time there's a gain, they ignore the context and say the economy is doing better than ever. Or at the very least, they're saying, look at this tremendous job growth. Well, the latest report, the U.S. economy shrank by 1.4%, my friends. It is the Democrats' midterm death knell. Ask not for whom the bell tolls, Democrats in Congress, for the bell tolls for thee. This is apocalyptic. Even CNN is calling this a bodying and disastrous. And of course, Joe Biden has no idea what's going on. When asked by a journalist about this, he said that the GDP fell to 1.4%, as if to imply he thinks the economy is growing. Oh man, is this bad. Now, we still don't know what's going to happen until November, so I can somewhat hyperbolically call it a death knell, but I'm very much convinced we are looking at a red tsunami, the likes of which we have not seen in some time. And my evidence to this, at least for now, and though it could change, is that in the generic congressional ballot, Real Clear Politics in aggregate has Republicans up 4 points. Let's throw it to our famous pollster friends. I'd like to point out when the Democrats have an advantage in the Democratic congressional, when the Democrats have a 5-point advantage in the generic congressional ballot, they still lose. And right now, in aggregate, Republicans are up 4 points. We are looking at something truly apocalyptic. So I think the Democrats have no choice but to lie and no choice but to bribe the American people. Because now we keep hearing mutterings that Joe Biden is going to offer student debt forgiveness. Let me break that down for you. I'm not completely opposed to it. You've heard me talk about it. I'm somewhat in favor of some type of student loan forgiveness. I'm also in favor of some type of universal basic health care. I'd like to break all that down for you because I think I have practical solutions. Maybe it's all not possible. Maybe it's all just idealism. But the idea that so some of these ideas I do like, but Joe Biden's idea and the Democrats' idea of doing a blanket loan forgiveness is insane. You're talking about taking tax revenue from the poorest Americans and transferring it to the highest income earners in the country by demographic. Now, I know there are ultra wealthy individuals who pay a substantial amount of taxes, but why would the lower income people who pay taxes have to give that money to people with college degrees who typically earn more? Now, there is an interesting counterpoint. I've heard some say that Republicans should offer up to like $20,000 in principal student loan forgiveness. That is, in interest and principal. And the reason is we can tax the universities or seize the endowments and use that to pay for the problem caused by these universities. I love it. I'm actually on board. Let's pull off something like that. You know, Will Chamberlain likes to say, seize the endowments. Yeah, these big universities have all of this money, yet they're still relying on predatory student loans so that people can come in and pay. Nah, they got billions, okay? How about we do this? We end predatory student loans, we tax the universities, and we use that money to forgive the loans of the people who were victims of this predatory behavior. Democrats won't do it. The universities are it's too much institutional power they want. But regardless, I think we're looking at something that's going to be historic. Nay, apocalyptic for Democrats, as like I said, even CNN says this is disastrous. Well, let's take a look at the news on the economy because it's not just about whether the Democrats are going to win or lose. It's about whether or not you, my friends, can afford to eat. It's getting crazy out there. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com and become a member, if you can, to help support our work. We're doing a lot behind the scenes. There's some infrastructure stuff I want to mention, but we can't do it just yet until we're ready to make the announcement. But rest assured, your membership is allowing us to help shore up the infrastructure to end the leftist cult hegemony over big tech infrastructure. Hegemony, whatever. Hegemony, how do you pronounce that word? The point is, These big tech platforms own the infrastructure. We're fighting back. And we've got some announcements to make as to how we're running the back end for timcast.com. So with your support, we'll do more. We'll hire more journalists. We just brought on another journalist. And you will get access to Timcast IRL exclusive member segments. So don't forget, don't forget to become a member. But you can also smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Let's read the story from Fox Business. U.S. economy shrank 1.4% at the beginning of 2020, marking worst quarter in 2 years. Economists expected the economy to expand by 1.1%, a marked slowdown from 2021. Gross domestic product, the broadest measure of goods and services produced across the economy, shrank by 1.4% on an annualized basis in the 3-month period from January through March, the Commerce Department said in its first reading of the data on Thursday. Refinitiv economists expected the report to show the economy had expanded by 1.1%. It marked the worst performance since the spring of 2020, when the U.S. economy was deep in the throes of the COVID-induced recession. Now, the funny thing is, apparently, didn't Fauci come out and say something like we're out of the pandemic period now? We should be looking at tremendous growth to make up for those losses. We're not. The Democratic leadership has been disastrous for this country, and Joe Biden's leadership, or lack thereof, has also been disastrous. Quote, today's shock drop in GDP is a wake-up call that the economy isn't as strong as we all thought, said Chris Zaccarelli, Chief Investment Officer for Independent Advisor Alliance. It's possible that GDP gets revised higher next month, as this is just the first release, and there will be 2 revisions, but it is a warning sign. Let me show you what the warning sign means. First, we'll keep it simple. CNN.com, Chris Cillizza, reports, today is a disastrous day for Democrats' 2022 chances. Disastrous day. It is a death knell. You know, I was like, do people know what a death knell is? Now, I know those of you who know what it is are saying, of course we know what it is. And some people are probably like, well, I can figure it out. That's why I said in the beginning ask not for whom the bell tolls for thee. The death knell is the ringing of the bell, signifying someone's end, if you get the point. Democrats are going to get voted out of office come November. No. I often say there's a lot of variables between now and then, so we will see. You know, who knows? Things can change. But my friends, I bring you to the Real Clear Politics congressional vote, the generic congressional vote 2022. I looked at this and I was aghast. Oh, heavens. Look at this. The Democrats declining. And now we're sitting at a clean 4-point advantage for Republicans. No joke. I was shocked when I saw this because I've seen it at, 3 points and 2 points. And I'm like, man, it's getting bad. But 4. I predict it's only going to get worse because food is through the roof, gas is through the roof, and it's not going to come down. I've had a lot of people say to me, maybe it's time, sell your house, sell your property, or now is not a good time to buy. I said, why do you think these big institutional investment firms are buying up houses like crazy? The cost of materials to build the house ain't coming down. Wood's through the roof. I think it's up like 6 times. 600% or some ridiculous number, or just shy of that. With inflation, with the retraction, the recession, all of this, why would the cost of goods be going down? You have people saying like, now the bubble's going to burst and all that stuff. I'm like, dude, if it costs $100,000 to build a house and your house is worth 150, why would it go down? It's going to go up. I heard this recently from someone. They said that they wanted to buy a house, no joke, a contractor, because the wood used to build the house was in good condition. And they figured the worst case is if they gutted the home, they could take that material and they'd get it at a discount. You know what the land is worth? It's a good investment. Plus the materials we can use to build newer I'm like, I don't know if you can use old lumber for that, but the joke they were making essentially was the wood costs more. We could repurpose it for something else. If you want to build a skate ramp, I don't care if you use recycled wood for that. A house, I'd probably want some clean, fresh wood, right? But if I'm going to build something personally and the wood is cheaper to buy a house, you see where this is going. Not that it's 100% in alignment right now. I'm not saying you can buy a house, tear it down, and use the wood for something like that because there's a lot that goes into it. There's labor and stuff. The point is, if the cost of materials is going up, then the houses cannot go down. Because if you want to build a new house, it'll cost you even more money. So then you say, okay, how about we do a used house? And they're going to be like, well, you need a house, right? Your new house costs 200. Why would I sell mine for less than 175? We got you in a bind, right? That's how things are going. Over at 538, they have the Republicans leading by 2.3%. Now, I consider 538 to be fairly biased. Real Clear Politics, I view as typically just generally fair. And the way I explain this is, although they all have their biases, Real Clear Politics just shows a spattering of recent polls in reverse chronological order. And we can see that based on this, they just give us the average. 538 chooses to include some and not others, and I don't know. I just typically think it's fairly biased. You can see that they have way more pro-Democrat polls here. They include 2 polls from YouGov from the same period. 2 polls from Quinnipiac from the same period. I don't know if I'm a fan of that. Maybe. But Real Clear Politics just outright says Quinnipiac, Economist, Politico, Insider Advantage, Harvard Harris, Trafalgar, Rasmussen. And it's all showing Republicans are coming. CNN even says, the news that the U.S. economy unexpectedly shrank over the first quarter of the year is an absolute body blow to Democrats already reeling amid growing economic concerns ahead of the 2022 midterm election. The country's gross domestic product fell at 1.4, this we know. The GDP news comes in the heels of newly released polling data from Gallup that suggested that economic confidence is extremely low among the American public. Look at this photo they use. Where's this at? We really shouldn't panic. CNN reporter breaks down the shrinkage. You've got this image showing gas at $4.59. I can only imagine what average Americans are dealing with escalating food prices. Now, my friends in the media are certainly trying to deflect. Take a look at this from the New York Times. Breaking news, the U.S. economy shrank for the first time in a quarter. GDP adjusted for inflation declined 0.4%. Oh, man, no. New York Times, that is not the defense you think it is. The economy is so bad that inflation makes the retraction seem smaller. No. Look, I imagine stupid people would see 0.4% and be like, it only declined a little bit. For people who know what's going on, you're like, oh no, the recession, the retraction is bad, but the economy is already at such an inflationary rate that it's almost masking the fact the economy is tanking. Oh man. This is bad. That's why I say death knell. Dong. That's the bell, man. Check this out. From the Hill. Joe Biden. This is what he said. I want to play for you this clip.
You about a recession, given the GDP report today showed a contraction of 1.4% in the fourth quarter?
Well, I'm not concerned about a recession. And I mean, you're always concerned about a recession, but the GDP, fell to 1.4%. But here's the deal.
The GDP, fell to 1.4%. As if to imply it fell from a higher growth to slower growth. I am not concerned about a recession. Joe Biden doesn't even know the economy is faltering. Now that is stunning. Recently, when asked a question by the press about Title 42, which is an immigration policy, Joe Biden said, well, we gotta wait and we'll appeal this. We got to see what the scientists say. And everybody was like, to see what the scientists say about your immigration policy? Joe Biden's broken brain cannot be ignored anymore. I implore you, American people, share this video. Let your friends and family know, dude, bad things are happening. They've been happening. It's been bad. I don't blame Joe Biden for all of it. No, I blame the Democrats and I blame COVID. The Democrats are not the cause of COVID. I don't blame them for that, but their handling of it has been abysmal. Donald Trump. He was president during the beginning of this pandemic recession, and he bears much of the blame. He certainly does. Joe Biden promised to lead us through this, and y'all voted for him, and it's only gotten worse. How could it be that the economy is getting worse, that there are more COVID deaths, when you said this guy was going to help. He was handed the vaccine and still more COVID deaths. You cannot act as though Biden is better than Trump. Sorry. With no vaccine, Donald Trump as leader, it resulted in X. Joe Biden, Y. Joe Biden, objectively worse, even with solutions. Here we go, baby. CNBC reports as of yesterday, food prices are never going back to where they were in 2019, says Tillman Fertitta. Fertitta Entertainment chairman, joins Power Lunch to discuss how his companies are doing, how inflation is impacting his business and more. And yes, this is the point. This is not transitory. Your food prices will not be going down. Wages will skyrocket. And I'm sorry. You've got people, the over on Reddit, the subreddit anti-work, posting photos saying now hiring starting at $20 an hour. And they're like, we're winning. No, you're not. Your buying power is going down. When these stores raise the minimum wage or the entry-level pay to $20 an hour, you think you're winning only because inflation is through the roof. You don't realize you're not winning. We need good economic leadership. We ain't got it. Here's from ABC Action News. Experts predict rise in food prices with fertilizer costs up 128%. Hey, you heard it from me many times. I don't know what you can do. You know, I talk about getting emergency food, right? I can tell you it's happening. I can tell you, what I would do and what I did, get away from cities. Now, I've had people trying to entice me back to these cities, wiggling that money. I don't know, man. I don't think I can do it. We're building out here because I do not trust these cities. I don't think they're going to be able to handle this, and crime is through the roof. Rather live in the middle of nowhere. Man, experts predict rise in food prices. You're going to feel it. Gas prices are back on the rise, and people want to know why. It's because inflation is through the roof. It's because the economy is retracting. And it's because all of these costs circle around and affect each other. And now, as of April 27th, just 14 hours ago, gas prices are going back up. And just you wait. You're going to hear it from Joe Biden, Democrats. Vladimir Putin's price increases. Yeah. To a certain extent, sure, I won't deny it. But the inflation was happening before Vladimir Putin. Food prices were going up. A lot has to do with COVID, but a lot has to do with Joe Biden and the Democrats' mass spending. Don't get me wrong, Republicans were involved a little bit, a decent amount. Even I said early on we should do these emergency packages and give out these emergency loans. COVID was scary. I don't consider myself to be smartest person in the world or a psychic or anything like that. I often can only assume I only know what everyone else knows. When we were in the throes of a major pandemic with videos of people collapsing in the street, I certainly was like, maybe we should lock down for a couple of weeks. Now I see the error of my ways because the government was given an inch and they took a mile, and it resulted in a major catastrophe. And now we're dealing with the repercussions of that. But I will not take responsibility for what Democrats are doing. I said Donald Trump. I said no Biden. I voted for Donald Trump. And here's what Joe Biden has to offer from NBC News. Biden says he's considering student debt forgiveness, but less than $50,000. The president said a decision is coming in the next couple of weeks. I'm open. I'm listening, but I do not trust him. President Joe Biden said Thursday he's considering taking action to forgive some student loan debt and plans to make a decision in the coming weeks. Here is my proposal, good friend conservatives. Everyone who took out student loans must pay back every penny they borrowed. Now, about that interest, I'm not a fan of that. You borrow the money, you use it, you pay it back. Some interest, I think, is fine. But compound interest? Here's what ends up happening. Some of these young people are told they must take out student loans. They do. They then end up, many of them, paying back the full amount of their loans, but still owing more than their initial loan because of interest rates. So listen, we had an economic shutdown. I blame Democrats for the most part for that, but Republicans were involved at least for a little while, and I played my part. Because of this, many people deferred. There was a freeze on student loans. But if you're struggling to get work to pay off your debts, I can't sit here and just act like every single person has the capability to pay off predatory loans. However, you should pay back what you were given. If you're given $50,000, and you spend it, you got to pay it back. But I do know people who borrowed $50K, paid back more than $50K, and still owe $50K. And I'm sitting here saying, like, how does this make sense? No, we cannot have a millennial generation strapped down in indentured servitude. We want young people to have families. We want them to buy houses. It's not going to happen as long as this is floating over everybody's head. My proposal, Republicans, conservatives, is that we eliminate interest. If someone has already paid back their principal, they're done. They'll get a tax credit on interest rates already paid, and we eliminate any interest payments. You borrow 50, you paid back 50, we eliminate the rest. That's my proposal. For anyone who already paid back all of their student loans, you get a tax credit in the full amount. Meaning, if you paid back $50,000, guess what? You are not paying taxes. You're going to get credited that $50,000. And I don't mean you're going to be credited that against your income. I'm outright saying you will not owe, like, it'll be the equivalent of giving you 50 grand, right? If somebody, well, I'm talking specifically about interest. If you've already paid back your loans, and let's say you paid back $17,000 in interest, we will give you a tax credit in that full amount. That's my proposal. Meaning, not that we're going to forgive $17,000 in tax liability. We're going to forgive $17,000 in tax. What I'm trying to say is, if you owe $1,000 in taxes, it's ignored up until $17,000. Let me try and explain this. What I mean is, sometimes when you get a tax credit, what they might mean is that if you earn $100, then you'll owe 27%, so $27. I'm not saying we forgive a piece of it. I'm saying that whole $100. If you paid in the interest, we're going to give you that interest back, but in the form of tax deferment, essentially. That's what I think is fair. It takes care of everybody. You still got to pay back what you borrowed. What's being proposed now and what I fear, Biden says, I am considering dealing with some debt reduction. I am not considering $50,000 debt reduction per borrow, but I'm in the process of taking a hard look at whether or not there will be additional debt forgiveness. I'll have an answer in the next couple of weeks. What I fear is that Joe Biden is basically attempting to bribe voters because things are in chaos. That will only make things worse. You got to pay back what you borrowed. Here's Rolling Stone. Republicans are panicking over the prospect of Biden forgiving student debt. J.D. Vance, Mitt Romney, Jim Jordan, and other conservatives are staunchly opposed to making life easier for 43 million Americans. Let's talk about what it means to make life easier. When I was 18, I didn't go to college. I went to a community college for like 2 months. I took like 2 classes. And for the most part, it was so I could just say, I have some college. Here's the funny thing about life. When you're applying for a job, they say, what's your highest level of education? Some college. That's true. You don't need a high school diploma to go to college. Did you know that? So I took a couple classes for a couple months, ultimately decided I was getting nothing really from it. It was fun, going to the cafeteria and hanging out. And I'm like, whatever, it's boring. Met some interesting people, had fun, learned some interesting stuff. I took criminal justice for 2 months. We studied serial killers. Yeah, I like true crime stuff. So I was like, a class on, serial killers sounds fun. So anyway, there are a lot of people whose lives were made easier. When I went to school, this was basically my family helped because it wasn't that expensive. It was like $500. And so I was fortunate enough to have family who could afford that. Many other people I knew took out tens of thousands of dollars in loans. They had their own apartments. They had cars. They went partying. And I thought, why don't I get to do that? And then I looked at what they were doing and I said, you guys are borrowing all of this money? That's insane. Now they're older and they're like, why do I have to pay it back? Dude, I know people who got to live in the hot spots in some of the hottest areas in Chicago while I was living on the South Side. Out there, I said it. Yep, you guys know I was from the South Side. While I was sleeping on couches. I didn't take out these loans, and I'm not on the hook for loans, and boy, does it feel great. But you're not just saddled by debt. Your life was made easier because you were given money, and now people want you to pay it back. But I agree, the interest rates are predatory. That's where I'm at. You are right about that. But you got to pay back what you were given, and there's got to be some inflationary interest rate. This idea of making life easier. Yeah, you want to make life easier? I tell you what, you give me $1 million from the government coffers. Make my life easier, right? How about this? The government should give everyone $1 million and everyone's lives will be easier, right? That's the stupidest concept ever. It just makes no sense. So that's the narrative we're getting. And now it gets worse. Biden asks Congress for $33 billion with a B to support Ukraine through September. We're seeing an economic retraction, and you want $33 billion for Ukraine? Shout out to our good friend Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, who called for going and fighting in Ukraine. It's amazing. I consider myself, I guess, to be a disaffected liberal, because I used to be like right there with Bernie Sanders when he was like, open borders is a Koch brothers proposal. We must protect the working class. And I'm like, yes, comrade Bernie. And then he was like, we need a moratorium on illegal immigration. And wait, what? A moratorium on criminal border crossings. Bernie, what happened, man? I'm all about helping the American people. I'm all about America first. I'm all about ending these foreign wars. And Bernie Sanders seemed to be like that guy. Now where am I? Now it's like Donald Trump's the best bet, I guess. Ron DeSantis is pretty good. I can always criticize Ron DeSantis on, that BDS policy thing he had. Not a fan of that. Nobody's perfect. Donald Trump certainly isn't. But what do I want as an American citizen? I want us to stop using tax dollars to blow up people in foreign countries that have nothing to do with us. I'm tired of these excuses that we can't have a multipolar world. Yo, this is not how you succeed in a unipolar world. What does that mean? So we had a conversation with Elad Eliyahu, who's a reporter he reports for Timcast on the Ground periodically. He said he wants a unipolar world. He wants the United States to dominate. I agree. But I think we dominate through leadership, cultural leadership. You guys ever play that game Civilization? I love that game. Well, here's how I play. Technological advancement, cultural development, and a strong military. I don't play conquest. Civilization is a game where you build your civilization, and there are borders and other countries. Some people like to play it where they build up their military and go conquer other lands. You could do that. I don't. I mind my own business, protect my borders, and if you come at me and attack me, I will crush you. But I believe in cultural strength. The United States should lead the charge with technological development, strong IP protections against piracy from places like China, and you're not going to win it, in my opinion, by going and blowing up foreign countries or people in foreign countries. What happens is these other countries grow resentful, team up with your enemies, and now you're facing a multipolar front. A multipolar front means that China is starting to dominate. Why? China's economy is growing. Take a look at this. Disclose.tv, China's economic growth rose by 4.8% in the first quarter of 2022, topping expectations, while ours shrank. Certainly what is going on with the U.S. is not working. China's growing, we're shrinking. Over in Germany, they had a massive inflationary acceleration. Yeah, it is not good. It's not good. And now we got this. U.S. intel helped Ukraine protect air defenses and shoot down Russian planes. You want war? Because this is how you get war. I don't think the Democratic establishment, the Republican establishment, they're basically the same thing, the uniparty elites. They're old and they're befuddled. And that's the problem. There was a time and a place for people like Nancy Pelosi. Not anymore. I would gladly see a progressive young person take over. I donated to a progressive who was running against Pelosi because, please, we need to end this insane person's reign in the House. I'm not even a fan of Donald Trump. Donald Trump's age. He's an old guy. But at the very least, he gave us something tangible. I like Ron DeSantis. Said it before, I'll say it again. I'd prefer to vote for DeSantis over Trump any day. He is tactful, much more articulate, much younger, with military experience, and that goes a long way. Far from perfect. But I'm a fan of Ron DeSantis. I think what'll happen first is we'll get a Donald Trump. Okay, I can take it. Because Donald Trump is infinitely better than anyone else so far. I mean, what I mean to say is Ron DeSantis I like better, but I don't think Ron will run against Donald Trump. I think a Trump-DeSantis ticket is, that's pretty good, to be completely honest. But DeSantis is a leader. So I'd rather have a DeSantis someone else ticket. But if it's Trump running 2024, I'll take a Trump. Whatever. is not this. Donald Trump is moderate. Even Vox.com called him a moderate. What you get with Joe Biden is befuddled insanity. Biden thinks the economy grew by 1.4? Oh, you want to argue it was a gaffe. You know what he meant? No, I don't know what he meant. I don't know what Trinidad Shabbat pressure means. I don't know what KNELL rescent means. I don't know what Batacaf care means. So don't come to me and say we should just know what Joe Biden meant. The dude is broken. We need something serious, and we need it now. But I don't have all the answers, my friends. I don't. The only thing I can do is show you what's happening. So my opinion on what's going to happen, I think the Democrats are going to get obliterated. And then here's what's going to happen next. Defund police Democrats poised to expand power in party in 2022. House Democrats are poised to move further left, so saith Fox News as of today. I agree. The progressives are going to gain more power, but this will further alienate regular people, middle-of-the-road people, post-liberals, disaffected liberals, whatever you want to call us. Elon Musk posted a meme showing how the left has moved so far left that moderate left-leaning people are now considered moderate right-leaning people by most polls. I ain't moving. My positions are the same, but the left has just gone off the rails. Now these people are going to continue doing it, and I expect to see a major sweep by Republicans. Fascinating times. Truly. There is now, I imagine it this way. Imagine there's a big sphere of influence, and it's got the left and the right, and they're arguing. And then budding occurs. A bubble starts to emerge of the far left, and it eventually grows so large, it falls off. Now, there is the constitutional republic sphere with liberals and conservatives, true, like traditional or post-liberals. And over here is this weird mangling mess of progressive and far left authoritarianism that thinks it's the left. At the very least, it's on the left, so it looks at us, disaffected liberal types, traditional liberals, and calls us right-wing and far right. They've lost it. I think that's the culture war summed up. But I'll tell you, the argument I have with people like Ben Shapiro isn't about the Constitution. We agree on that one. It's not about free speech. We agree on that one. It's not about Second Amendment. We agree on that one. Many liberals do. It's about like tax policy, gay marriage, pro-life, things like that. And we have calm, rational discussions. And it's fascinating to me. We've had a few leftists who are like, I'll come on your show and debate you. And then I'll be like, well, I don't really do debates. I mean, I could have you debate someone and I'll moderate. I'll have a discussion with you. Let me know when you want to come and we'll pay for it. And then they say, no way. I'm not going to do that. Because they're an amorphous malignancy with no principles, a chaotic and destructive force. And it's going to lead to destruction for the Democratic Party. Ask not for whom the bell tolls for thee. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. tonight over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.